You're as young as you feel. Baloney. What does that mean anyway? I'm as young as I feel. Physically? Isn't that a matter of personal health and fitness? I feel like I'm 30 until I go to the gym and try to lift 100 pounds again and pull another muscle, tear another tendon, and have to stay away from the weights for 3 months while I heal myself from the act of staying young. I'm as young as I feel. Emotionally, for decades I've felt young and delighted in people who marveled at my age. Why, you don't look a day over, fill in the blank. Or you look 10 years younger. That one ended 20 years ago. You're as young as you feel psychologically? That's called denial. Cat Stevens, I was once like you are now, and I know that it's not easy to be calm when you found something going on. But take your time, think a lot. Think of everything you've got. You will still be here tomorrow, but your dreams may not. You know you're getting old when everywhere you go, people say, you look just like Willie Nelson. Have you seen Willie Nelson lately? Oh, but in a younger version. You know you're getting old when your brother celebrates his 50th wedding anniversary. John and Annie just rejoiced on Friday with all our family and loved ones at the fanciest of restaurants, Fogo de Chao. Anybody know that one? You know you're getting old when you are once again happy to hear a bar full of patrons singing happy birthday to you. I was at an ecumenical gathering on my birthday of Presbyterians and UUs and people who didn't know they were either, when Kirby, who seems to know everyone in Palatka, went up to the performer on stage and announced that this room full of people, none of whom knew me, needed to sing happy birthday to Jack. Annie did that. Annie. Thank you, Annie. And they did so rousingly. You know you're getting old when you are not afraid to ask for and expect the discounts, deals, and sympathies that being old can offer. Walmart, hotels, theaters. You know you're getting old when you recognize the wisdom of your age and experience and wonder why others cannot do the same. You know you're getting old when you gain the use of a rental car and it takes 5 minutes to learn how to start it. I swear that every one of these is true. Eventually, I realized there was no keyhole, but only a button. On the way home from the dealer, I pushed the radio power button, and the truck began to tell me where to go. In 1/2 mile, turn left at the traffic light. I finally had to pull off the street and ask the dealer how to turn off the GPS. I don't know how to change the channel. All the buttons around the radio are labeled. Home, menu, audio, map, seek, phone. One of them says track. So I assume there is a CD player, but there's no slot to insert one. But one of the buttons will actually pause the song on the radio, I swear, and finish playing it whenever you want. I have to turn the right-hand knob to dial another station, but when I do, the on-screen map redirects me. I look at this giant 6-inch screen right in my face, and it has me bound for the Atlantic Ocean somewhere east of Marineland. I swear. I honked the horn the other day. The truck began to ask me questions. What is it you want me to do? I swear. I want you to stop making me feel old. I tried the autopilot. What do you call it? The cruise control. I've been on a sailboat too much. A message on the dashboard tells me radar is ready. I'm afraid to turn on the windshield wipers. I'm just grateful that the air conditioner was already on when they loaned me the truck. And I was going to buy this truck. It's not time to make a change. Just relax. Take it easy. My new mantra from Cat Stevens. I've been getting old for some time, capped off my heart event last March. I decided recently that it was time that I began to explore more deeply how to grow old, how to spiritually adapt to life in its current manifestation, how to be in the present moment, as Thich Nhat Hanh would say, when the moment is the autumn of my life. In my pack of St. Augustine friends with whom I run, I am the elder wolf. I'm not the leader of the pack by any means. I've always been more of a rebel and a renegade than an alpha wolf. But I do enjoy a certain distinction and respect from those wonderful people who are able to love me for who I am, with all my quirks and sensibilities. And while I was blessed with loving family and happy childhood, I must say that growing to adulthood has not been met with the same admiration or acceptance among my siblings and family that is offered by my clan of friends. Southern Baptists march to the beat of a different drummer. Traditional Christianity is about the message of obedience. Psychological profiles consistently reveal that UUs are nonconformist and suspicious of authority. Obedience is not our strong suit. We don't march to anyone else's beat. In a recent book by UU minister Ashley Horan called Becoming, she wrote, "By the time I was in my late 20s, I was convinced that I would never find love. I had had a few boyfriends, but over and over again I was exiled to the dreaded friend zone. I always suspected that it was because I was too much, too smart, too feminist, too radical, too fat, too independent, too big of a personality. After a while, I reached the conclusion that I would just have to get used to the idea of being too much all by myself." Ashley says, "But then I met Karen. Nearly 6 feet tall, older, black, brilliant, stylishly butch, fiercely outspoken and opinionated, and funny as hell. And it turns out also a UU minister. We became quick friends, she said, and the too muchness in each of us created something vibrant and life-giving. I realized that to say yes to this relationship would not be an act of reason, but an act of faith. And that my faith, rooted deep in our UU tradition, was telling me to not let convention prevent me from connection. To take risks that nurture relationship over isolation. To remember that we are all worthy of love, and that it is ours to claim if we are but brave enough to answer its call. Reverend Ashley wrote, "At the end of my life, as one of my favorite hymns says, if they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love." While the Father in Cat Stevens' song is singing his message to his Son, if you listen carefully, you hear the voice of the younger speaking under his Father's voice. Away, away. I know I have to make this decision alone. If they were right, I'd agree, but it's them they know, not me. Now there's a way, and I know I have to go. As the Father is pleading, why must you go and make this decision alone? We know that it is true. Not only existentially are we alone responsible for our decisions, but in a very real sense, we must find the courage to go. Eventually, to go away. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. But I believe beneath all of that, there is a mystery and a spiritual reality that says we are never alone. I can't explain it, but I sometimes get a glimpse of it. Louis Schwartzberg, that time-lapse photographer, said, "This reality of our human point of view is not the only point of view." You can talk about this stuff, he said, in scientific terms. You can have Einstein explain the theory of relativity. But until you see it, you really don't get it. And when I think of growing old and facing that ultimate solo trip of death, this notion that we are part of something far more vast than we could ever comprehend, it comforts me. I was in the bed one night, late at night, with my wife Kathy. We were both awakened by a phone call. It was 2 a.m. I picked up the receiver. There was no one on the line. Deciding that it must have been the doorbell, I got out of bed. No one at the door. We shrugged and went on back to sleep. 4 o'clock, the phone rang again. This time, it was Kathy's ex-husband, Stephen, a policeman. He said, "Do you know where Michelle is?" Michelle is the 24-year-old daughter of Steve and Kathy. In fact, we had just spoken with her at 11 p.m. the night before. Michelle was heading to bed, and we were to pick her up that morning to go to church with us. To make a long and brutal story short, it turns out that Michelle was in a horrible head-on traffic accident. She was alone in a driving thunderstorm. It was so bad they wanted to life flight her, but they couldn't land a helicopter in the weather. It took a while for rescue to arrive, and they could find no identification in her car. All they found was a card with the name of her baby on it and their last name, Zabo. Remarkably, one of the policemen on the scene said, "I know an officer in Daytona Beach with the last name Zabo." And that is how we came to get a call from Steve. Although Michelle was kept on life support for 7 days, it turns out ultimately that she died that night in the accident. And by speaking to authorities and by tracing the calls on her beeper, which we found the next day in the ditch where the wreck took place, we eventually determined that the accident happened at 2 a.m. when Kathy and I first received the phone call. I can't explain it, but I sometimes get a glimpse of it. We are never alone. These are the opening words to the documentary, Fantastic Fungi. By the way, if you want something to do on Thursday and you don't have any books, it's an hour, 20 minutes.
I think that's a great idea.
It's fascinating, fascinating. These are the opening words. There's a feeling, the pulse of eternal knowledge. When you sense the oneness, you are with us. We brought life to earth. You can't see us, but we flourish all around you. Everywhere, in everything, and even inside you. Whether you believe in us or not, from your first breath to your last, in darkness and in light, we are the oldest and youngest. We are the largest and smallest. We are the wisdom of 1 billion years. We are creation. We are resurrection, condemnation, and regeneration. It sounds like a sacred text from the Vedic writings or the Holy Bible or Quran, but they are talking about mushrooms, fungi, the foundational basis of life and interdependence. They form these massive links just like a big web growing through the forest. Universal consciousness. Every magnificent thing they say that humans have accomplished comes from that place. The largest living organism on earth and the oldest is a fungi on top of a mountain in Oregon. Paul Stamets, world-renowned mycologist, that's a study of shrooms, an environmentalist, said evolution never stops. The core concept of evolution is that through natural selection, the strongest and fittest survive. But moreover, Paul said, Communities survive better than individuals. Communities rely upon cooperation. Evolution, Paul said, is we are a vast network of molecules and energies and wavelengths. We are not an individual. The interconnectedness of being is who we are.